Hey guys, welcome back to Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl, where we interview top-level MMA fighters and other experts in their fields about love, dating, romance, and that all-too taboo subject, sex. I'm your host, Ashley Rebel Girl Evan Smith. Now let's talk about sex and violence. What is up, all my naughty listeners? We are back with another interesting and slightly intrusive interview for you guys. Hope you had a fun week. Since we last talked, I got to reconnect with a friend who I hadn't seen since probably before the pandemic, so that was amazing. I feel like as the world is opening up, we all get to see our buddies and family members that we haven't seen for a really long time. It was my friend Shani's birthday brunch, so, like a bunch of girls in Huntington Beach, just getting all dressed up and, drinking mimosas and catching up. And, of course, I have an embarrassing story for you because I am myself and I like to embarrass myself all the time, I guess. So picture it, 12, 15 beautiful girls. I mean, I'm talking, I looked around and was like, for sure, I'm the ugly duckling of the group. 6'2" blondes that all look like they can be models. But, we're talking about girl stuff, and we are a bunch of girls living in Orange County, and fake titties came up. So, of course, my ears perked up, and everyone's talking about boobs and whatnot. And there's a girl at the end of the table, and I find out she's a jiu-jitsu black belt. And even though I got the boobies, let's not get it twisted. My main goal is always to win fights and better my career and, train hard. But, I've been doing podcasting and all this in between. But my first thought when I saw this girl was, I want to ask her, what is it like to do jiu-jitsu with your fake boobies? Because I'm on that cusp, right? I'm right about to jump back into grappling. I'm not cleared yet, but, so I look over at her and I'm like, hey, I heard you're a black belt. And she's like, yeah, a black belt under so-and-so. I'm like, that's so cool. Could I ask you a question? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, what's it like rolling with your fake boobs compared to your old boobs? And she just looks at me, and my friend Shani looks at me, and I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, I had chosen the one girl with natural boobies to talk to. And so, I definitely... oopsies. So the girl actually had real boobs, but she laughed it off, and it was a good time. But I feel like my catchphrase should be Ashley Evan Smith putting her foot in her mouth since 1987. But I will eventually get to slowly start training, and probably about a month or two before I can grapple. Right now I'm hitting the bag and all that and trying to get my cardio back up. I actually heard that Aljamain Sterling, our current bantamweight champ, is going through the same, or he actually got the same surgery as me and our guest that we're about to interview as well. He got his C6, C7 discs replaced in his neck, in the spine. So, but the crazy thing about Aljo is that I hear he's giving himself a 3-month timeline to be back in the cage. Now, if you guys are consistent listeners and you guys been with me from the beginning, you know that sounds crazy, right? Because, I'm over here 4 months post-spine surgery, and I'm not even cleared to grapple yet. So, I mean, more power to him if he can make that timeline happen. I just really hope that he does it smart, right? You don't want to rush back into something that's, crucial to our health. So, I did start training, like I said, and it's it's almost comical how sore I am at, such a small workout, getting back to it after 4 months. But you know what helps me when I am sore? A Botanical Bloom CBD. And all A Botanical Bloom products are made with real CBD, not hemp seed oil, and all of their products are lab tested and provide a QR code on the box to track the results. In addition to tinctures that I use for smoothies, coffee, anything, they have hand sanitizer, lip balms, vapor rubs, gummies, and the gummies have double the average dosage of normal CBD gummies. So go follow them at abotanicalbloom.com or on Facebook, Instagram at abotanicalbloom. And if you check them out, use code AshleyMMA to get 20% off all products. I've been telling you guys each week, if you guys have any input, if you have any questions, please drop me an email. The show has an email. It's Ashley, ASHLEE, at sexandviolencepodcast.com. If you guys want to check in, tell us how we're doing. And now we are accepting sponsors. So any of you guys out there who have a product or a service that you would like to promote on the show, please send us an email. Again, that's Ashley, ASHLEE, at sexandviolencepodcast.com. We're also got our YouTube up and running. We've been lagging on getting the full-length episodes up, but we're working on that. Tomorrow, oh man, I'm so excited. So after more than a year of operating behind closed doors, UFC will return and welcome fans back to the world of live MMA with the UFC 261 pay-per-view, and that's going to be the triple header in the Sunshine State. Oh, almost messed that one up. Sunshine State. So Florida, tomorrow, Jacksonville, Florida is going to have crowds since the pandemic fucked everything up for us. And it's a crazy card. We've got headlining 3 title fights. I guess, can you headline when you have 3 title fights? Well, triple headlining? I don't know. We have welterweight champion Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal, and that's number 2. They previously met at UFC 251, and Usman defended his title via unanimous decision. Then we got the other title fight is flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko versus former strawweight champion Jessica Andrade. I just don't see Jessica beating Shevchenko, but who knows, there's two champions fighting. And then we've got 2 champions fighting again. We got strawweight champion Weili versus former champ Rose Namajunas. Both these girls are my same management company, Sucker Punch, with Brian Butler, and I just want to see the best lady win. But I got a feeling that my girl Carla Esparza will be coming for that belt very soon, so it doesn't really matter who wins, in my opinion, because she's going to be taking that belt. And then we got Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. It's a rematch. Weidman won previously, and, Uriah Hall, we talked about, we're going to talk about Anderson Silva a little bit on this episode, and he beat the GOAT, which, in his later years is Anderson Silva, but I see Uriah winning this time around for sure. Then we have on the main card, lastly, Jimmy Crute versus Anthony Smith. Now, Johnny Walker was expected to face Crute in a lightweight bout, but he got pulled due to an injury, and so now Anthony Smith, former UFC lightweight champion, is now the challenger. The rest of the prelim card, there's 9 other fights. I won't talk about all of them, but it's going to be, I think, one of the best cards of the year. Hope you guys tune in for that. Today's guest is an American professional mixed martial artist currently fighting in the welterweight division of the UFC. Born and raised in Lafayette, Louisiana, he began training in Muay Thai in 2005 at the age of 23 and was undefeated as an amateur, which led him into a career in MMA. He currently holds a 17-7 professional record and has earned Fight of the Night 4 times. He made his UFC debut in 2014, but prior to signing with the UFC, he was a professional model and appeared in several television commercials. He signed a deal with Versace in 2016 and appeared in a short film as the face of Versace's Dylan Blue fragrance advertisement along with Gigi Hadid. When this total package of a man isn't fighting, acting, modeling, or hosting a podcast, he's enjoying time with his wife, sorry ladies, and son, Cage. We talk about going from fighter to broadcaster, classroom boners, losing his virginity at 13, sex on the hood of a car, kissing Gigi Hadid, and so much more. Here's your guest, Alan Brahma Jouban. All right, Alan, thank you so much for coming on. I know you are a busy man.
Yeah, it's been a busy time for me right now, but I'm happy to come on. I know you got me a little nervous, Ashley. You gave me the pre-call. You kind of let me know everything going on in the show, and I got to say I do a lot of interviews, but MMA interviews, but I've never done any like this, so I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. It's MMA interviews, but kind of like nothing you've ever heard before, right? We're going to touch on some topics that don't normally come up, but I think it's a fun opportunity for, your fans, your listeners, anyone who wants to learn about you to kind of see a side that you don't normally show, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely never get into these type of topics, but I'll try to be, I'll try to be as much of an open book today as possible.
Yeah, Alan is referring to our pre-call, our pre-show call, and what that is just me kind of reminding the guest what they've signed up for, because a lot of people, they don't hear the episodes and they say, yeah, I'll come on the show, and then they don't really realize that we're going to talk about love and dating and romance and sex. So Alan was like, oh, okay, that's what kind of show it is. But we won't talk, all about sex exclusively. We want to know about you. We know you are a fighter, a model, a commentator, a podcast host, and just tell us what an average day is like for you, since you're so multi-talented.
I appreciate you wording it like that. I try to keep myself as busy as possible. I don't know. It's just, some people are kind of wired that way, and I'm definitely one of them. Like when the people that go to bed at night and thinking of a million things that they want to do the next day, and I'm no different than that. I'm the type of guy. I will go to bed, and right before bed, I'll write a list of things to try to check off the next day, and it just keeping myself busy makes me feel like I'm, I don't know, maybe doing something that other people aren't doing. But a typical day or week for me, if you're in fight camp, you know how that is, Ashley. I mean, you focus on fighting all day long. But even with fight camp, over the years, it's just a lot. It's been a juggling process because I'm married. I have a wife and a son, so I have to also balance my family time and help my wife out, bring my son to school. I usually coach his soccer teams, all those things. But I'm also still teaching Muay Thai. I teach martial arts 3 days a week at 10th Planet Burbank. And then I'm always dabbling in something. If I'm a little bit older now, I'm 39, so I wouldn't say I'm modeling very frequently anymore. But if something calls or I have an audition that they send me last minute and I have to start reading a script, it's just trying to balance that. And it's when you're in fight mode, it's so much easier to train, eat, sleep, recover, repeat. To just do it all day long. It's the only thing about fighting, like to go to that Rocky scenario where he's in Russia and he's training and that's all he's thinking about. Like that would be a dream for me because I've never had that. I've always tried to put as much on my plate as possible, and I could say, I could juggle this. I could handle this. If DC could be good at 15 jobs, if The Rock, The Rock could be good at everything, I could do it. So I've always kind of put that pressure on myself, but it's always been a very much a balancing act the entire process.
Yeah, Alan and I actually have the same wrestling coach. Shout out Kenny Johnson.
Hmm.
And I remember, Kenny's. He likes to talk, and if somebody has a fight coming up, Kenny will, talk about that person. And a lot of the times when you have a fight coming up, he's always saying how organized you are and how you write out your goals and you're very goal oriented.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget him saying that, I don't know, 5, 10 years ago, however long you guys have been working together, that you gave him a list of your goals, and then X amount of years later, you came back and you were like, look, like I've accomplished this, this, this. And I'm like, oh, that's why I feel like, being organized and goal setting is so important. Then you can be like Alan Jouban and attain your goals and, do all these different things. It's hard, now that I'm now that I'm not in fight camp, I'm doing, all these different
Hmm.
things like you. And I think the key is organization and making those lists. They're so underrated.
Yeah, they just because they give you stuff that you would have forgot about otherwise. I love how I can't believe how good your memory is that you remember these stories, and I know exactly what event you're talking about because I mean I did this a couple of years, but there was this one year that I gave Kenny a list, and I think it was a purple. I must have been a purple belt at the time, and I said my goal is to get my brown belt, to compete at Great Nationals, to win Great Nationals, to win 3 fights in the UFC, and get a fight of the night bonus, and some other things as well, right? And I did all those things that year. I couldn't even believe it. And then I realized, I go, you have to set your goals extremely high, so high that they're not even obtainable, because otherwise you're always going to crush them. If they're somewhat obtainable, you're probably going to go get them. You're probably going to get those goals if you're a go-getter. If you're out and about doing things and making these small, subtle improvements on a day-to-day basis, you're probably going to get those. So that year, within, I think it was 6 or 8 months, I had accomplished, my 10 goals on my sheet that were pretty decent sized goals, but it wasn't like saying I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to do something that was extremely high. It was stuff that was very obtainable. And so I made a new list that year, and jotted down more goals. And so what I learned was after that year, and that was probably 6 years ago or something, I started making my goals almost unachievable. And that way it felt so good if I was able to check something off the list. I go, wow, I really didn't even know this was obtainable, but I got it. So it's gratifying.
Yeah.
But it's helped me stay in line because, like I said, just the little things every day. If you go to bed and those 10 things that pop up, you go, oh shit, I forgot to do that today. But if you write that shit down every day and you just go, oh yeah, let me do this, let me pay this bill, let me make this phone call, let me ask this producer if they need somebody like me or whatever. And it's those little persistent phone calls that I've made every day for the last 6 years that's helped me in every area that I've wrote those goals down.
Yeah, I can only imagine, being persistent, like you said, staying organized, also always being open and flexible. This show right here is a perfect example, right? We don't have a million listeners yet, but and I don't think you're doing me a favor or anything. I think that you see the benefit in marketing yourself and putting yourself out there and making time for even smaller podcasts like ours. And it shows because you're killing it in all these other areas, especially the commentating world. And I have to ask you, is that something that you're leaning more towards commentating and kind of pulling back from fighting since, as you said, in your words, you are getting older?
Yeah. I mean, since we're talking about it, yeah, first of all, like broadcasting, being an analyst, all that stuff, being a color commentator, it's been something that I had my eye on for a number of years now. I mean, ever since I saw like they started doing it at Fox and like Kenny Florian and all those guys were like the first. I was like, oh, now we have actual fighter talent. Before, which Joe Rogan is like, the Oprah Winfrey of MMA, like what he says goes. But it was only people that had like this knowledge or this stardom that could do it,
Yeah.
or the play-by-play guys. But now they're like, okay, you know what? Let's actually bring in fighters that have fought inside of the octagon, and if they have some sort of speaking skills or broadcasting skills, then they can get better. And so when I started seeing them grooming guys, I go, man, I could do this. I audition, I do stuff all the time. I'm not really, I've never done any type of hosting or broadcasting, but I know I could because other guys are doing it, and I feel like I'm stronger than them in certain areas. So it was a goal for a while, and I was banging on the door forever. And I finally kind of just got my foot in with the UFC sometime last year, or since the UFC ESPN merger, where now they're starting to use me. And so it puts me in a very comfortable position, not financially, because I'm still just like a fighter newly signed to the UFC. I'm at the bottom of the pay scale, and I'm not fighting nearly enough. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's knowing that I have that there's no roof to it, that I can continue to grow and I have some place. So to kind of answer your question, yeah, I'm 39 now. I've been fighting for X amount of years. I've got so many injuries. And so at this age, to have kind of a backup plan starting to transition into it, it feels great. And so I don't focus on fighting quite as much anymore. And I definitely have been more vocal in the last couple of months about retirement, which is, even saying that word was so hard for me to say about a year ago. But now I'm much more realistic, and I've said it enough times. I've had this conversation with my family and my management enough times that I feel like my foot is almost out the door on retirement. I've kept the door cracked open in case a big fight came or something. And if I'm being honest, like I haven't even shared this with anyone yet, but the UFC called me the other day and gave me a big fight and a big name and the exact fight that I wanted.
Oh wow!
And I contemplated it so hard. I went into fight mode. I flipped the switch and I went to the gym for 3 days and sparred every day and did jiu-jitsu every day. I just wanted to test my body, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like see, would my body hold up? And I came back after 3 days, beat up. I mean, like I just felt like, holy crap, it's going to be tough. And I know I could do it, but I know I'm actually in the middle of selling my home right now. I'm in the middle of just, everything going on in life. And I've been working broadcasting, as we spoke about on the weekends, that at the end of the day, I look at myself in the mirror. I go, could I devote 110% into a fight camp right now and push back my moving date, which would complicate a lot of things, and turn down all these broadcasting gigs with the UFC and the LFA and put all my energy into fighting? And I go, no, there's no way I could. There's no way. If I'm being honest, I'm not Rocky living in a barn in Russia. I'm in LA with a million phone calls I have to answer every day and 10 emails and all this stuff. And so I turned it down. And like, it was very tough because it was, I've been asking. So like, if I'm going to come back, I want a guy that's like a veteran. That's like a name. Like, I don't want some young, hungry kid that's just coming off of the contender trying to make a name for himself that does nothing for me. I said, I want like Carlos Condit. I want Dan Hardy, like a name.
Yeah.
And they come back and they go, hey, can you fight Carlos Condit pay-per-view in like 4 weeks and possibly co-main event?
Oh, 4 weeks.
And
4 weeks.
Yeah. Or maybe it was like 6 weeks, but it was right around the date. I'm looking to move in the May, early June, and it was right around that date. And I go, damn you, damn you, Sean Shelby. You give me exactly what I asked for.
Yeah.
But my heart's not in it right now. And I'm not one of those guys that, like, you know, I don't fight just for the money. Obviously, we want to be paid and rewarded. But I'm not willing to go make some money and get my ass kicked, or go make some money and mess up what I've worked so hard for. You know, like, I'm used to going into camp, and I've taken short notice fights, but with my wholeheartedly willing to, you know, nearly die inside that octagon. And right now, I looked at my wife and I was like, babe, I wake up every day and I've got so many emails and I do this and that, and I'm leaving town 3 days a week to do broadcasting. I was like, do you think I could like be in fight mode? And I saw the uncertainty in my wife's eyes, and then I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw the uncertainty in my own eyes. And I go, I got to turn this down. And it's like, and you know, as a fighter, like, turning down a fight or getting injured is just as bad as losing.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It's hard.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, because you feel like you punked out. It's tough, and then the UFC kind of like feels like you let them down as well. But it was the smartest decision I could have made at that time, because I know how overwhelmed I am right now. There's no way I could be at the gym training twice a day at this moment.
Yeah, this is not basketball. This is not football. Nothing on those sports. But this is not a sport where you can half-ass training and not give your 100%. You're literally going inside a locked cage, you know, not fighting to the death, but, you know, it's just, you're going to war. And how could you feel 100% confident if you know you're not giving 100% to your training? And as we all know, you know, fighting is 80%, you know, sometimes 90% mental. So you know what's best for you. And that right there is hard. And no one's really going to ever understand that unless they're put in that position, right? Where you can be in the limelight and shine, and you know, that amazing feeling of having everyone look at you, and this is your time, and it's not a team sport. And then you have to pass that up because you know it's the smart move, but everyone on the outside sees you as, oh, you know, Alan doesn't want to fight because of X, Y, and Z, but they don't know what you have going on behind closed doors. So I think you're making a very smart decision. You're saying that it's not, the door's not closed though. You know, maybe in the future, if the time is right, you're settled with your new place and they give you, you know, the right opponent, you could potentially still fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I don't know. Like I said, I'm leaning towards retirement, but I say this: if I moved in a couple months and got situated and at home and found my training camp again and everything that I need to be focused on a fight, and they presented me this exact same offer 6 months down the line from now, or sometime once I've settled, then I would be able to at least make an honest decision. But and say, look, do I still have it? Do I still have the fire in me, or do I still have the physical capability to compete at the highest level? At least I'd be able to be honest with myself and say, look, I'm going to put everything aside and do this 100%. But right now, I know I'd only be giving it 50, 60% right now with my time in the day. And like you just said, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's 50%. It's okay to shoot free throws, but it's not good enough to lock yourself in a cage and possibly get embarrassed in front of the world. It's not okay with me.
Exactly. And, you know, you and I both have seen it. We've been in the sport long enough that there are those fighters that go out on their sword, right? They fight till the end, and it's hard to watch. It's like, you know, you got to know when to hang it up, and then they're not ready. And then you got to see some of your favorite fighters just decline in the cage in front of your eyes. And, you know, I know that's not what I want for myself. Right. Age is not even a factor. It's, as you know, how well have you taken care of your body? How many injuries have you sustained over the years? What else do you have going on in your life? Is your head and your heart still in it? And if all of those factors are a no, or even, 3 out of the 4, whatever, it's a hard decision. And not everybody makes the best
Hmm.
decision, right? You see, like I said, you see people, you're just like, oh, you know what it's like to still want to fight, but you kind of want to tell them to hang it up too, right?
Yeah, because I always said that. Like when I got into fighting, I go, I don't want to be, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but like the people that you said, like they get knocked out 4 or 5 times in a row and then
Mm-hmm.
hanging up because they needed a payday, or um, or like just even like going back to like training when I was fighting Muay Thai before MMA, like you would go to some gym in California and there's some former Muay Thai a Thai guy, former world champion, and he's holding pads every for $20 a pad
Yeah.
session
Oof,
kind of
that's
thing, and
rough.
I go for me success. It's not just having a trophy case, and it's not just financially. It's everything encompassed. It's being at the highest levels of being a champion or having success. It's making financial success because like you could have a trophy case, but you're still living in the basement at the gym. How successful were you? It encompasses everything, and it's happiness. It's the journey. Like, man, I did so many things. I traveled around the world. I met so many amazing people. It was fun, and so that's how I look at my career. I go, I wanted to make money. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to enjoy and love what I did. But I didn't want to be what we're talking about. Somebody that now is fighting because they have to pay the bills, or they have to do it, to do privates or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well,
But
you
I
don't
don't, I
seem
don't, I don't
like,
want to end. I wanted to end my career on my terms.
yeah. And you don't seem like you're that kind of a person. You've been smart enough to dip your toe into modeling and acting and commentating. And now you have 1 or 2 podcasts that you do.
Yeah, just one. I used to do MMA Heat with Karen Bryant, and then me and Jason Ellis started one called Good Day MMA.
Oh, no
And
more
man, I
MMA
hope we can
Heat?
keep doing it. MMA Heat's kind of no longer. It's kind of there, but we had taken that one as long as we could.
Mm-hmm.
And Karen Bryant's been so awesome. I mean, she kind of showed me the ropes. We started doing a podcast 4 or 5 years ago, and I was horrible at it. But she was like, she could see that there was like potential there, and so she worked with me. And she's kind of someone who helped groom me to get to where I am and doing stuff with ESPN and UFC. So I credit her a lot for that. But we had taken that as far as we could. We both started a new podcast, but man, like I love doing the new podcast with me and Jason Ellis called Good Day MMA. We just had a fun show Monday or something. But they're telling us they might not be able to keep us on. It's tough because with these some of these businesses that pick you up in the podcast world, if you don't have X amount of followers by a certain amount of days, then they can't keep you on. And so we're kind of at the chopping block right now. So
Mm.
I'm hoping we get to continue doing it because the people that watch our show, they love it. I mean, it's so nice to get these people that like tell you like, I mean, you do it. You're in you do the podcast, you do shows, and so when you can relate to like 1 or 2 people and they're like, oh my God, I love your show or that thing that you talked about, God, that feels good
Yeah.
because like I like to talk about fighting, but when something hits with somebody else and they can relate to that, and you get people that message you like, man, these shows are so amazing. I look forward to them. I listen to them on my way to work. It's like, oh, that shit feels good. I'm actually doing a service to someone. So yeah, I'm hoping we get to continue doing it because it's been fun.
Yeah, it's rewarding, and I think for you and I alike, it's just adding to our resume of what we want to do in the future, right? I
Hmm.
aspire to be like you. Like I have a few acting roles lined up over this next coming year. I would like to see my own podcast grow. Like I don't know if I could ever be a commentator, but I would love to do some pre or post fight
I think you
interviews.
could. I mean, just your little interview you called me the other day in the car. I was like, damn, Ashley's like, she's together, man. You're like super organized and like, and very, you had a way of like, of making me feel at ease with some of those subjects we were talking about. I was like, damn, she's like the sex doctor over here, like talking to
Definitely, I guess what I'm going for. I'm not trying to
me.
sideswipe anybody in the interviews. We just want to get to know you. I know you're from
Yeah,
Louisiana, but I don't know what Louisiana's like, and I want to know you're born and raised there, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what
Until I
was
was like 19, I left when I was young.
perfect? What was growing up in Louisiana like?
Huh, it was different. Well, I'll tell you this. So I mentioned that I was moving. I'm moving back to Louisiana. So we just
What?
bought a house. Yeah,
No.
yeah, we bought a home. I know. I
Oh.
feel like it's. I haven't been very vocal about it because of that. Like because I feel horrible, and then I have like a sad conversation with all my friends, and so it's been
Yeah.
very tough. I'm sorry to like just like I know because me and Ashley like train together off and on at Black House when we're there, and I know like I haven't even told 95% of the people that I know in LA, and so it's a conversation that they're either going to hear on this show or I'm going to tell them eventually. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's very bittersweet living LA. It's just that all my family is still in Lafayette in Louisiana. My wife is Thai, and so all of her family is in Thailand. And we basically both. She's been in LA longer than I have, but both basically been in LA like 15 to 20 years. We met here. We had our son here. We got our home here. Like the success. Like, I was bartending and doing construction until I got into the UFC, and so the success and everything has grown in LA. So LA will always be a piece of our heart. But some of the other things that we just talked about with like I'm getting older, I don't know much longer I'm fighting, and raising a son, it makes me always want to go back to Louisiana and kind of live that simpler life because I don't really need to be. I'm not going out all the time anymore. LA is getting just tougher to live. LA's
Rough. Little
changed a little
rough.
bit. It's getting rough. Yeah, I mean, it's still got my heart, but it's not the same LA that it was 10 years ago. It's just getting much more expensive and et cetera, et cetera. But it's more about kind of moving to that next chapter. If
I
I
don't,
don't know if I'm going to be fighting, then we think about going to Louisiana.
I don't think anyone would blame you. You have a kid. I don't know what that's like, but I would want to raise my kid in the safest, most friendly, play outside on your bikes, like have other kids in the street to run around with. Like, so I
Those
imagine.
exact things. That's exactly it.
I imagine that's what is your main focus because you are a good dude. You got, you're a dad, you're a married man, and you're hustling. And I'm sure you had your going to the bar phase and whatnot, but that's not who you are anymore. So why stay in LA? Pay these prices that are crazy, I recently took a trip with the boyfriend to see how Florida was, and not the
Hmm.
place that we're gonna go, but it was, we're at that point where we're like, let's just start exploring the rest of the world because Orange County, LA, it's rough. It's rough to make it, and it's rough to stay financially as well. So, you're
But
going
wait,
back.
how was Florida? I'm curious.
It was great in the sense that, the weather would be a smooth transition, a little more humid,
Hmm.
but um, Miami was just kind of like LA. It was like, it
Oh,
was,
Miami. That's where I went to Miami.
yeah,
Yeah, Miami's a little different.
he did a seminar at 10th Planet West Palm Beach. He's a 10th Planet black belt under Casey Halstead. And the people there, West Palm Beach, beautiful area, amazing people. But we ended up staying in downtown Miami, and we're like, this is just like LA, So we had a great time, but
Yeah.
I think we're still going to keep looking, or maybe we'll make it work here in California. But I think this whole pandemic has got a lot of people reassessing their finances, their living situation, their future plans. And I don't know, I'm kind of in limbo right now. I'm still, going through the same injury that you went through. Actually, Alan and
Hmm.
I are surgery buddies. We both got our C6, C7 disc replaced. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Spine, or it's
Disc
a,
replacement. Yeah.
yeah, like a little spacer inside our necks. And Alan's been a great, person to go to and ask, like, hey, how did this go, post surgery, and how long did it take you to get back on the mat? And I've appreciated that as a friend and as a teammate, being able to go to him and ask him. I know you were on like an 18-month hiatus before you got back in the cage, right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I knew I was ready to go before that, but I just had so many injuries; they almost blur into one another. Because I had the neck injury, and then I had an ACL, and then I tore a ligament in one finger, and then I tore a ligament on my other hand as well. So
Oh, Lord.
within those four surgeries, I had two fights, and so yeah, that's what it was. I had the neck injury, and then I had two hand surgeries, and so it put me out for a very long time. But the neck surgery, it's such a weird one. I've had probably 10 surgeries, and the neck was by far the scariest because it's like you're messing with my neck, and not only you messing with my neck, but we're fighters. This is like our pride and joy. Like
Yeah.
your neck, you got to have a neck. It was
I'm a
just scary.
wrestler,
But
Alan. Like my neck is,
it's
it's like another
it's
arm.
everything. That's your wrecking ball. I mean, you use it. But it was so scary to go into it, and then coming out was a little like, okay, I don't know what to expect. I've got a neck brace on, but I got to say, after a week of having the surgery, I was like, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was, because I'm not on crutches. I'm not doing like this devastating type of physical therapy where I'm learning how to walk again or put 15 pounds of muscle back on my leg because my leg's like skin and bones now. I felt very normal, to be honest. It was just kind of getting some of the core and all that back, and it just takes time to heal. But I wasn't shook by it after doing it. And I've spoken to so many fighters like you and other people. Christos that trains at Black House, and Aljamain Sterling called me, and Chris Weidman, and spoken to all those guys. And like now, neck surgeries are becoming, like a sprained ankle in terms of like they happen, they suck, but people get through them and they keep on playing. It's not career ending at all anymore.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. Both you and I, if it would have happened, 5, 10 years before this time, they wouldn't have had, medical science, upgrades and whatnot. I heard that if you get a fusion, like 5, 10 years ago, you basically career was over, whatever you did. And I'm like, oh God, like thank goodness that didn't happen. So I'm lucky, I'm ready to get back in the cage by the end of the year. But yeah, I know that it's just part of the job, right? You've had so many injuries, I've had so many injuries, and hence why you're probably reconsidering your career path. But to go back to Louisiana, so you're going to move your family there. What was it like growing up for you? I mean, it's not LA, it's not where I'm from. I want to know, what was it like to be a kid in Louisiana and kind of growing up there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was very normal. It seemed like everybody's kind of like what we talked about a while ago, childhood, playing in the streets,
Yeah.
riding your bike, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I feel like I miss from my son over here, because I had all that. I played soccer my entire life, year round, and I would do a lot of hunting and fishing. Louisiana is known as the sportsman's paradise, and so that's what you're doing all the time. You're out doing things. Even though I lived in Lafayette, which is like a small city, I was always spending time on my grandfather's farm, helping him with like the cows and farming and going hunting and fishing and staying busy, riding 4-wheelers and
Oh, wow.
just crazy stuff like that. Just kind of
Hands-on.
enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
getting
active.
dirty quite a bit and all those things. And so it was fun. But everywhere you go, you feel that people want something more, because I've been in LA for 15 years now. In the last couple of years, everybody goes, I can't wait to get out of LA. The prices are too high. I just want my son to be able to ride his bike down the street without feeling like he's in danger or this or that. And that's what kind of pushed me out of LA. But then when I go to Louisiana, they have the same problems. They're like, you know what, money's not spent right over here. And there's still bits and pieces that they have racism, and the politics are so bad. And I go, man, you guys sound just like all my friends in LA. It's just different problems. And it seems like everywhere that you're going to go in this country, you're gonna inherit some sort of problem. There's not too many perfect states out there to pick from, but it's kind of going to what makes you feel happy. And right now, this stage of my life, it would make me feel happy to be able to have a little more financial freedom, because it's a lot cheaper to live in Louisiana. And then to have the support of our family there that we've never had.
Yeah.
So now to be able to go, I could tell my wife, babe, you want to come to Vegas with me this weekend for the job and let my mom watch Cage? And like, I've never been able to do that. We've never had a babysitter or anything in the 8 years that we've had our son. My wife doesn't trust anyone. Like we don't do babysitters. We don't have aunts or uncles. You know what I mean? So he comes everywhere with us, or we don't go. So to have that option, it opens so many new doors, and it excites me. And again, going back to the way I was raised, just to have my son being able to run around the neighborhood like a normal kid, I look forward to it.
That's awesome. Yeah. How old is Cage, your son?
He's 8 now.
8, yeah. So
Yeah.
such a weird topic, but I always ask the guests, when we ask a little more risque topics, like when did you lose your virginity? Like when you were young, how did you learn about the birds and the bees? Something I have not got to ask a guest, because I have 95% females, is, do you remember when you were younger having your first boner?
For some reason, the last thing that we talked about was Cage, and I'm like, oh my God, is Cage gonna get his first
I
when
mean,
he
what
gonna get
age
hit?
do boys have their
Oh my
first
God.
boners? I don't know. Like, and is that something
Yeah.
you've dealt with Cage before? Like, oh man.
Kids are weird. Kids at this age, they don't know what to do. They'll pull down their pants and play games, and I'm like, you don't understand. That's
Yep.
inappropriate. That's
Yeah.
not funny. But kids don't know any better. But for me personally, whew, here we go. Here we go. I'm trying to. We're getting into these fun topics, but I can remember. I can remember being a kid, and I don't know when the first time that happened was, but I remember numerous times at school, specifically in high school, where I was praying to God, thinking, please, God, do not let the teacher call me up to the front of class right now. Because randomly, in the middle of class, for no reason at all, you would have like a boner. And,
Yeah.
and it would happen all the time. And I remember like thinking, God, if I had to get up right now and write something on the chalkboard, I would be the laughing stock. I would be so screwed right now. And thankfully, it never happened. But I remember, yeah, in high school that happening quite a bit, and waking up in the morning and going, things are different now. Things feel different now.
Yeah. Do you remember like your first girlfriend, or what was it like in Louisiana? I feel like the more like city kids are just unfortunately they're a little bit more advanced, they're more
Hmm.
adults at an earlier age. But I'm like thinking, okay, Louisiana, and you seem like such a like a sweet kind of humble introvert kind of person. I'm like, what age did you start talking to girls?
Um, I gotta say, I was kind of a little bit different than I am now. When I was a kid, I was kind of more of a bad boy young, and I feel like I got out of my system pretty early. But I probably had my first kiss. I remember it was in Austin, Texas, at a soccer camp, and I must have been, I don't know what that was. I was probably like sixth grade or something. So I guess I was like 11, 10 or 11 or something like that, 11 or 12, first kiss. And then I remember obviously losing my virginity at uh, at 13. I was eighth grade summer going to high school. And for some, I don't know why I remember this. There was a Meatloaf video on MTV where
Oh my
like
God.
anything for love. I
Oh
can't
my
remember
God.
the
Yeah.
name.
What's
It
that
was like a
song?
Meatloaf video,
I would do
and
anything for
yes,
love.
it was like it was one of his like big bomb classic songs, and I just remember something about the video, like him or a kid finding this older woman in a barn, and like she taught him about the birds and the bees, and I was like, yeah, that would be great, like some older experienced woman, and like she teaches you everything, and and that's kind of how mine was. I was like 13 and met somebody older, and she taught me about the birds and the bees.
Nice. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
13 is about average age, I feel like. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
nowadays younger and younger, but yeah, I feel like for
Nowadays it's younger than that. Oh my God.
yeah, I mean, look it up like the
What
what's
was
that.
yours? I'm sure you've talked about this before, but I'm curious. What was your age?
I was 15. It was on my 15th birthday, and it was with a
Mm.
boy who was 19, which, I'm like, oh, no big deal. But now I'm like, technically that's statutory rape. But I've heard worse
Yeah. Well,
stories.
same with me. Mine would have been as well.
Oh, yeah.
But on
It's,
your birthday too, huh? Wow.
yeah, I remember crying afterwards. Like, it was, it's never special. It's never magical your first time. So I think we're all,
I feel like most girls go through that too, though. Yeah, like where it wasn't special, and they didn't make the right decision and everything. Yeah,
yeah,
I
girls,
can imagine so.
we at a young age we like think it's gonna be on a bed of roses with your dream man, and I feel like guys or boys, little boys are like, I don't really care who the fuck it is, I just want to, have sex. But so I know you got into modeling probably later in life, but I really wanted to ask, like,
Mm.
did you have confidence at an early age, or were you always just like a good-looking kid? When did you have that awkward, ugly phase?
Yeah, no, I know. I no, I didn't have confidence, and yes, I definitely had an awkward, ugly stage. I felt like I saw a picture of me the other day when I was probably around that 13, 8, 12, 13, 11, 11, 12, 13. I was just skin and bones. I mean, every bone in my body you could see. And I lived next door to a health club at the time, and I remember I used to vacuum I used to help them clean up, and they would let me work out for free if I helped them
Oh,
cleaned up. So I
it's
would try to
adorable.
put on muscle to just, yeah, I would do anything possible to, like, I wanted to be, when you're skinny, when you're overly skinny, you just want to be big, and when you're big, you want to be skinny. And I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to be muscular, like all these guys that I saw walking around with their shirts off. And so I was trying everything, but I had this kind of awkward, ugly duck stage at like that. I guess it was adolescent years, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then um, and then I kind of grew into myself my later years in high school. But I'd say I probably didn't have that much confidence. To be honest, the my confidence came from fighting, and then it came from, talking, like, just like we're doing interviews, doing shows, because you become more open about things, and you feel like you have less to hide. But fighting really did it, because I got into modeling and I didn't want to do it at all. I was embarrassed. And so anytime I was like 19 in Louisiana, and they offered me to move to New York and do this modeling contract,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, yeah, like my first response was like, "That's gay," and then like,
That's
and then I
gay.
moved to New York and like met my first gay best friend. I was like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't say that," and it's, like I get to travel the world now, and so I learned so much. But I was like, "Why am I doing this?" It's like an opportunity, but I don't really like it, because I'm sitting around waiting for the phone to ring all day, and then it's somebody's decision on they like your look or they don't like your look, or
Hmm.
you're a brown haired guy and they want somebody with a lighter complexion and blonde hair. So it was so out of reach for me to improve that I couldn't stand it. And then I went from New York to Miami to LA. And when I got to LA, I found a Muay Thai gym. And when I found fighting, I go, oh my God, like, why didn't I know about this sooner? Now I could train twice a day. And then I have a say in how good I get, or the progression of this. And then when I fight, it's not somebody picking, unless you go to the judges, I guess, but
Yeah.
it's not somebody picking. They like you with them better. I go, I beat your ass and I outwork you. I win the fight. And now my career is I have control of it.
And you
And
have
so I fell in love with
confidence.
fighting.
Yeah.
And the confidence came from that, right? Now,
Yeah.
holy shit, Alan's a fighter. That dude went from modeling in New York. Now he's in LA fighting. Like, my confidence grew, because the confidence in myself. And also, I didn't have to act tough anymore. I was like, man, I fight for a living. I don't have
I
to get in street fights
I am
anymore
tough.
and do all this stupid stuff. Right, right. And so something about fighting. I'm sure it does this for everyone. I'm sure it did this for you, but for me, it made me kind of more at peace in my own skin. I felt like I didn't have to try as hard anymore. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I always credit fighting for that.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, I'm thinking modeling gave you confidence, but realistically, if you're sitting around and being criticized and picked apart by all these different agencies or whoever, it might hurt your confidence, right? To where you thought you might be a little good looking, but then you get declined for a couple opportunities, and now you're reconsidering how attractive you are, or how handsome you are, or whatever. But then you fight, you get all this confidence that you worked really hard for. So, yeah, I can understand that. When you were 19 and modeling in New York and traveling around, was that, like a sexual time of your life, or were you just grinding? Because I feel like, 19-year-old boys, raging hormones, around tons of models. Was that a wild time,
Yeah.
or more, or a little more tame?
Man, I'll tell you, I messed up. I wasted that stage of my life, because I had a girlfriend in Louisiana at the time, and it was like, oh yeah, we met in a small town. We thought we were gonna get married and all this stuff. And next thing I know, I'm traveling the world, and I was like the good guy at that point. I kind of got the bad boy out of me. I'm 19, 20 now, kind of I had this career, and I was like, I'm gonna be faithful. I'm gonna be faithful. And I traveled the world, and I really was. I was faithful and this and that. And then obviously, like most relationships that happen young, it didn't work out. And I met my wife later on down the line. But though, I always think about that. I go, man, when I was 19 to whatever, 23 or something, in this long distance relationship for a long, and she would come visit me, I'd go visit her. I was like, God, and it didn't even work out. And we were so not right for each other the entire time. And I did not know any better. And I thought, I'm this kid from a small town. I got to do the right thing, and I should have been just getting it out of my system. So I wish I would have done something differently,
Well,
for
I
sure. I
mean,
wasted those years.
I don't know if it's a waste, I mean, maybe saved yourself some STDs. Let's just look at it that way, okay?
Maybe that I like the way you put a spin on it right there. It's weird, like with past relationships, like you with somebody for a long time, you take all these pictures. What do you do with those pictures? Like, then you can't put those pictures up anymore. You can't look at them. It's like those years where erased because you don't want to talk about them with who you're with now, or maybe you do, maybe you don't, but
But
yeah,
I
I
think
always
you
wish.
would agree that you can throw the pictures out, but the lessons that you learn through each relationship, whether it be a one night stand or a long term one, that's instilled in you. Whether you learn how you want to be as a man, or how you don't want to
Hmm.
be, or who you want to be with, or who you really don't want to be with. I try never to regret any interaction. Whether it's, like I said, one night or a long term relationship, because we're always growing, we're always evolving as fighters, as humans, as partners, right? So maybe you didn't ruin your modeling time. Maybe you learned how to be faithful, and now you're a good man for your wife and your kid.
I like the way that you put a spin on that. I'll take the way that you said it.
Or you could have just been slutting it up and you fucking missed out, Alan.
Yeah, and
Either
who
way.
knows? Who knows what I might have turned out and been? So
I,
yeah,
I,
maybe you're right.
I wanted to ask you, how long have you been married?
We got married the same year that my son was born. So we've been married 9 years.
Okay, and is that because I like to ask everybody about online dating, swipe right, swipe left, and I'm wondering if the timelines won't match up, right? Because online dating has only gotten real popular, what, past 5, 6, 7 years. Were you
I've
ever?
never done it. I'm so curious about it. No, I didn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was I was I was before the time.
Okay.
Because I've got friends now that are newly single, and they ask like, man, I'm in this world, and like he's like, I know nothing about it, but they're like, there's so many options now, there's so many apps. He goes, there's even pretty much kind of like what do you call, like almost like call girl type apps, like you just say like, I'm in this area and you come, we meet, we have sex, like one night stand
Yeah,
type
it's
apps.
crazy.
And I don't know anything about it. And I do, but tell me more. Like, tell me how much fun you're having, I guess. But if you're looking for advice from me, I got nothing for you. Yeah, I was before that time. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, but I never did it. I couldn't even imagine what it was like right now.
I
Not having to go out and meet someone.
I go back and forth with because I was on like one, like Plenty of Fish, which was like pre Tinder, pre Bumble, all that kind of stuff. But I go back and
Hmm.
forth. I'm like, oh, like how lucky are these younger kids? They just have like all these options. But then on the other side, I'm like, how sad for them that they can't make this real life, in person, human connection, kind of like give someone the benefit of the doubt. Like, because there's always going to be bumps in the road. But I feel like with all these options that kids have nowadays, it's like, it's not working out. Swipe to the next person, swipe to the next person,
Swipe to the next one. Yeah.
which is, nice to have options. But I feel like sometimes you might be missing out on real connections with people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I could. I mean, like heaven forbid something would ever happen to me. Me and my wife's relationship, we have a wonderful relationship, but like to go back into the dating scene right now, I'm trying. I'm trying to imagine it, and I really could. I mean, especially, I mean, think of during COVID. I mean, talking about if you're single and during the pandemic and stuff. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes it even harder.
People
I
were
felt so
either,
fortunate to
yeah.
be married during all this.
Yeah, me too. I'm, like I'm in a healthy, happy relationship, but I have this show where I'm talking to people about their dating experiences during the pandemic, and I'm just like, ooh, sucks for you. But I'm not,
Yeah, they were like lonely
yeah, it's not the
and trying
best.
to meet people. I remember in the beginning of this pandemic, I was doing acting classes, and we went to Zoom or whatever acting classes, and so we'd be on a Zoom call, and there'd be like 8 people on in class, and we always would open up class with just good energy type stuff. How you doing? What's going on? Positive messages, and I'd be at my home, my family. I'm like telling my son to be quiet, but I was happy. We didn't know what was going on in the world. It was scary, but I was happy, and I would see people in my class, and they would be in Hollywood in a one-bedroom apartment with a roommate that they didn't like, but they couldn't leave, and they were scared to death of COVID. This is early COVID when nobody knew anything yet, and they were so miserable, and they hadn't left their place in days, and I would just think, God, I couldn't even imagine doing this alone, being in a studio alone in the beginning of this pandemic, or being trapped in an apartment with somebody I didn't like, a roommate that I had nothing in common with. A lot of people are going through some crazy situations, and especially to get back to what we're talking about, if you're in the dating world and you're single and you're you're looking to meet somebody, and it was tough times last year.
Yeah. You and your wife been married, you said 9 years, right?
Yeah, about 9 years.
9 years. So I'm sure you have your methods down as far as what you like to do before a fight. And I like to ask the guests, do you abstain from sex before a fight? Are you a believer that kind of
Hell no.
keeping things... Didn't even finish my sentence. Okay, hell no is...
Sorry. Go
No,
ahead, finish.
I mean, literally, we've had 40-something guests on the show, and not one guest has said, oh, yes, I abstain before a fight. And everyone says pretty much hell no, just like you said. And
Yeah. Fight week. I'll say fight week. I like to not have any sex or anything like that, just because you know how it is. Like you're just so focused. You're cutting weight. And I feel like, you do feel a little bit more like, I don't know, stronger or angry, and kind of like having sex is like getting a massage,
Yeah.
it relaxes you. And I don't want to be that relaxed and loose and like, just like kick my feet up. I want to be somewhat angry with the chip on my shoulder. So yeah, fight week, which you're normally not really home anyway. You're normally wherever the location is.
Yeah.
But as far as the whole, like 30 days, 50 days or anything like that, no, it's like the last day that I see my wife, we're like, okay, let's make sure we get one in, because we're not going to see each other for like 5 or 6 days now.
Yeah, I understand that. You almost want to be pent up, right? You want to release that tension on your opponent, as opposed to like, what's up, man? I'm feeling relaxed and good.
Yeah.
What is one of your favorite sexual memories that you can remember?
That's an interesting question, because
Without going into too crazy detail, what's something that pops up
yeah,
that's
well,
like
I'm just
in the spank bank forever?
Okay.
This
I
is not Good
remember
Day
as
MMA.
yeah, I know. And I'm just like, do I talk about my wife? But then that's personal, and then when I talk about someone else, is that disrespectful to her? But this was at such a young age that I was a kid. It didn't matter. But I remember being in high school and being with the girl, and we went into parked her car, a Mustang, in the woods behind, in the back of the neighborhood.
This sounds real Louisiana right now.
Very Louisiana, And for some reason, it's because it was a Mustang. There's no room in the back seat, so we got out and we were on the hood of the car.
Oh.
And I remember her. She was kind of like moaning and yelling, and I thought it was me being great at what I was doing, but it was actually the hood was really hot and it was burning her ass.
Oh,
and I remember we jumped off the hood, and then she told me what was going on, but it was it kind of killed the moment, but we were cracking up laughing, and
that's awesome.
And then I went back home. Yeah, I went back home not too long ago, and there's a neighborhood built there now and everything, and then the woods are gone and all that. But yeah, when I drive by, I kind of remember that happening.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I actually had a 1974 Ford Maverick in high school, and they have bucket seats. So no action in the back seat. It's all about the front seat action with that kind of car.
Oh, Lord. Was it a standard?
Yeah, I can't drive.
Automatic?
I can't drive stick. I mean, I can if like.
Oh, so it's automatic.
Yeah. Like on the dashboard, it's got that drop down. Yeah, I love that car, but had to get rid of it when I moved down to Southern California. It was not going to make the long haul from NorCal to SoCal. It was done.
How long of a drive was that for you?
It's about a 9-hour drive from where I'm originally from, in Ukiah, California. Like I like to say it's a little ding-ding-ding-ding town, little bumfuck nowhere town. But it's nice up there. But yeah, it's I don't know. It might be similar to Louisiana.
Probably so. I mean, I'm sure it's more beautiful, Northern California, but yeah, small town, not a lot to do. People trying to get out and go see the world and everything.
Well, it's time for the lightning sex round, and on our pre-call interview, I let you know what it was, and you sound a little nervous. Are you ready for this?
I think so. I'll roll with the punches.
All right, cool. All right, I'm gonna ask you one word or one phrase, and you're gonna do rapid fire, yes or no. Ready?
Ready to rock.
All right. So, do you dirty talk in bed?
Sometimes.
Spank?
Sometimes an answer. Got to go yes or no. Sometimes.
Spank or like to be spanked?
Spank.
Biting?
No biting.
Choking?
No, no joking.
Threesomes?
Damn.
Plead the fifth.
Yes, before. And it has
Got
happened
it.
before.
Got it. Do you watch porn?
I don't. I mean, if you're like out of town in a hotel or something, like bored. But no, I'm not like I got a lot of friends that are addicted to porn, watch it once a week, twice a week. No, I've never been into it. I don't know. I'd rather just
Experience
have
real thing.
the real thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Any fetishes like foot fetish?
No, definitely not a foot fetish or anything like that. I guess just like, I don't know if this is a fetish, but like, like healthy hair, skin, like soft skin, things like that. Very feminine qualities, like soft skin, your hair smells good. You don't have like bad breath in the morning. I know I'm like drawing the perfect person, but like, yeah, just like feminine qualities turn me on a lot.
All right. No, that's good. Yeah, I'm my boyfriend's like, "You don't kiss me enough." I'm like, "If you brush your teeth in the morning, I will make out with you, but I'm not going to brush you."
Yeah, but yeah, like you see these movies where they wake up in morning sex. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I
Like,
know.
with that, no cleanup or nothing, not happening.
Okay. Do you role play?
No role play.
Butt stuff on you or a partner?
Um,
Play the
damn
fifth.
you, Ashley.
Play the fifth.
Yeah, nothing. I plead the fifth. Nothing on me. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Do you use sex toys?
No.
Ever
I'm a natural guy. Yeah.
Ever been to a sex club or a swingers party?
Are these normal things that you do, Ashley? I haven't. I mean, I don't know if that's a regular thing. Am I missing out? But I haven't been to that.
Are you? And last one, are you a lingerie lover?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
right.
We don't do that often, but like whenever you, yeah, man, like whenever you see a girl and she's got something like skimpy or just because I definitely am into like less is more. I mean, if you've got something that's covering you up but showing little hints of things, to me that's wildly attractive rather than somebody just being butt naked right away or something like that. So yeah, lingerie does it for me.
Got it. All right. Congratulations, Alan. I know that was tedious for you and hard. Sweating over there.
It was weird because I kind of felt like I'm missing out on a lot of things. These questions.
You're like, am I boring?
I didn't do any of them. Yes, I feel like I'm boring now. Yeah.
No, you're not. And no,
Oh,
Alan, this is not. I do not do all of those all the time either. So
all the time.
Yeah, some of those. All right. So one game that we play is called Fuck, Marry, Kill, and this time we have the famous model edition special for you. Are you ready?
Okay, and I'm answering fuck, marry, or kill.
Yeah, you got to choose who you want to fuck, who you want to marry, who you want to kill.
Okay, this is hardcore. Let's go with it.
I know. And it's funny because actually after I created these, I was doing my research on you and I was like, oh, damn, Alan has been around some beautiful, famous models, so he might actually know some of these women. But hopefully I don't put you in a weird spot. So you have Gisele Bündchen, Heidi Klum, and Tyra Banks.
Oh, let's see. Gisele, Heidi, and Tyra Banks. I hate to say this, but I probably have to kill Tyra. Like seeing her on what is it, America's Got Talent. I don't know. She kind of annoys me. She talks so much. She does. Yeah, sorry. So
kill Tyra.
I have to kill her.
Who are you gonna
kill
marry?
Tyra, and then there's Gisele, and who else?
Heidi Klum.
Oh, and Heidi. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say I'd have to marry Heidi, I guess. She seems kind of down to earth family type. Could be wrong. Could be totally wrong about her, but she's got something about that. And then I guess fuck Gisele because she's like the biggest, baddest supermodel we've kind of ever had. Well, up until some point. I mean, I think now they've got some girls that are making killer money, but she was the thing. I mean, when I first got into modeling, I remember she was like the breadwinner of all models. And so, she gets that award for sure.
Yeah, and you've worked with some beautiful women, and I was like, I don't really want to put them on the spot, So I wasn't. I don't.
No, all good because like my wife allowed me to, for that Versace thing. I worked with Gigi Hadid, and
Yeah.
part of the campaign was to make out with Gigi, and that was a conversation me and my wife had to have, and thankfully she was very cool about, like, I'm sure there's some jealousy there, but first of all, my wife loves models. Like, she follows more women than I would. She's all about like beautiful models, and she called it. She goes, "I bet you do this campaign with Gigi." When they told me I got it, and sure enough, it was Gigi. And she goes, "Look, if you got to do something, like, I know it's a lot of money and a big job, and so like, so I called her and I said, yeah, they're thinking about us, like, having like make out scene." She gave me the green light. Like, I got that real life, like, what do they
Pass.
call that?
Hall
Like
pass.
yeah, like a hall pass. I got a real life hall pass. So
Yeah, that's
yeah, I was
cool. I
grateful to
mean,
have that.
your wife's name is Nicole, right?
Nicole, yeah,
She just seems like a very, very cool person. I mean, it's very
she is.
hard to date someone who's in fight camp, and then, now you're saying, you've had to ask her, like, hey, am I allowed to make out with this hot model? And she's like, okay. Like, this seems like a very cool person.
Because she's brought it to my attention before. Like, what if she booked some job and she had to go make out with some hot dude? Yeah, I was like, oof, tables turned. I don't know, babe. I don't know how I would feel about that. So, yeah, I'm grateful for it.
That's cool. Good job, Nicole. All right, we're going
Yeah,
to answer a few fan questions. Are you ready?
ready.
All right, at Andy H863 wants to know, what year is your badass truck?
Hey, thank you, Andy. I'm actually like sitting I'm in the garage right now because I had to be away from my family for these types of conversations. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting next to my badass truck, Andy. I was sitting in the seat the whole time. It's a 1956. It's a 56 F Ford 100, and I just love them, man. Like, I've kind of been an old truck guy. My grandpa had an old truck for a while, and I was watching this show on TV called Count Customs, and I was like, "That's the one. That's what I want." And I looked it up, and he had a 55 or 56 F100, and so couple fights back, or I say a couple, like 3 or 4 years ago, I got one, man. I went knock on somebody's door, had $5,000 in my back pocket, and I offered him 3,500, and he let me have it. And then I had it in the shop for a year, and every time I would fight, I'd put a little more money into it. And yeah, a year later, got it just how I wanted, and yeah, so I love her. I'm shipping her to Louisiana like this week, because of the move, I have to ship her, and then she's getting a new engine. She's getting an upgrade from a 302 through a 351 and all kinds of stuff. So it'll be bittersweet seeing her go, but I know we'll meet again soon.
I hear the love in your voice, Alan. Okay. At Pepe Le Pew 96, I love that guy's name. He's always asking questions too. Who's the greatest fighter you've ever trained with?
I mean, I guess that would be easy. It's Anderson Silva, at Black House. Anderson definitely is one of those guys that we kind of alluded to earlier that maybe fought a little bit too long. But when Anderson Silva was in his prime, he was greatness, and he was who I looked up to, and he I'm a southpaw, he's a southpaw. He's a striker, kind of with a Muay Thai base, same as me. There was so many things that he did that was my style as well that I could learn from him. So this works into my style, my patterns, and everything. And so I would study him since day one, and then fast forward 10 years in the game later, or 5-6 years ago when I first started going to Black House. Now I'm training alongside of him and sparring him. So for me, that was an amazing moment to just to say, I'm going to be a UFC fighter and actually accomplish your goal. And now you're training alongside the guy that made you want to be a UFC fighter from the beginning. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight in the training area.
You've had an amazing journey so far, and not quite over, but you definitely have already accomplished a lot of cool things, and even training with someone. I remember I walked into Black House, and I was just coming off an injury, and it was sparring day, and Kenny Johnson, our wrestling coach, goes, "Hey, go warm up with Anderson," but I'm like, what,
Hey.
are you joking? And
Yeah,
he's
you
like,
sure?
just go light. And I'm like, Anderson Silva,
And then you double leg them.
no, 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 no. It was just like an epic moment. If that's all that ever happens, with me and him, I'm like, oh, I got to train with the amazing, one of the greatest of all times. It's just, our sport is so cool like that, where you can, start as such an amateur and then a few short laters be training with some of the best in the world, right?
Yeah, and there's just a little bit less egos in MMA as compared to boxing or other sports where, sometimes it's politics or egos where you can't go to somebody's gym. But in MMA, you just said it. I mean, you might have the best guy in the world, and you might have like amateurs or up-and-comers training alongside them or in the same room or something. So you get to rub elbows with a lot of great fighters pretty frequently.
Yeah. All right. Last fan question we got here. At Senor.Barba, best piece of advice you've ever received?
Damn, no pressure. Best piece of advice I've ever received. Jesus Christ. Oh, Senor. Oof. I'm thinking deeply. Give me a few more seconds
It's
while
a
I think
hard one.
about
It
this. The
definitely
best
is.
piece of
It's like, is it about fighting? Is it about your family? Is it about
I know.
finances?
Well,
Who
that's
knows?
it. I know, 100%. There's so many areas that can go into. But the best piece of advice
I'll tell you what
that
mine
I
was
ever
while you think
received.
of yours,
Please, it
okay?
might help me. Yeah, it might help out.
So I did something very naughty when I was 17. I was a really bad kid and hanging out with a bunch of punk rockers, and I ended up getting blacked out drunk, and I stabbed this guy when I was
Hmm.
17 years old. And I went to juvie and almost lost my scholarship to go to college and wrestle and all that. And I was mortified, not at the fact that I had done this thing, but all my friends abandoned me. And at 17, your friends are, especially with someone like me, wasn't very close to my family, but the best piece of advice I had ever gotten, I thought my life was over. My aunt, she had told me, she's like, you'll be surprised that in 5 years, some of the people that you think are the most important to you won't even matter. And I didn't get it at the time, but, obviously 5 years later, I'm, graduated from college, and I didn't even remember being heartbroken about those times. So what that basically told me was that even though right now all you can see is crumbling around you, you have to remember to look long term, right? Like in a few years, it won't be this bad. Everything is going to be better someday. And every time things get hard for me, I'm like, all right, in 5 years from now, I won't even remember this, So that's some of the best advice I've
Yeah.
had.
No, that's great. Man, I can't believe gangster like that stabbing somebody. Jesus, what did you stab him with? If you don't mind me
Yeah, I'm very
digging into this
open.
a little bit more.
No, I mean, I don't know if you can tell. I got this show called Sex and Violence. I'm a very open person, and I'm big on not regretting what happens in your life. And this thing happened to me. I stabbed this guy when I was 17 with a knife, blacked out drunk, didn't remember, woke up, whole life changed, right? Had a scholarship and whatnot. But, you learn lessons. I stopped drinking for a while, for 4 years in college, and unfortunately picked it back up and did some more damage to myself during my drinking years. But sober now, and yeah, just trying not to stab anybody again.
Please don't, Ashley. Please don't.
Please don't. Alan's
No
like,
more
ugh.
stabbing. That's amazing. That's a crazy
Well,
story.
Alan,
But
if you
uh,
don't know your
I was gonna say,
advice, it's okay. But if you could think of
yeah.
it, but we do want to
Well,
know.
I was gonna say when you thought about it, I'll say something real quick,
Okay.
just because when you were talking about it, it led me. I don't have like an actual piece of advice that somebody gave me, but I've always been into like these like entrepreneur or positive thinking, just stuff like that, like on Instagram and things like that. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always trying to figure out like how can I be successful? How do you invest? How do you make money? How do you, like I talked about earlier in this show, making a list every day to get more
Mm-hmm.
things done. And I remember around that time, people were talking about real estate and doing things and pulling the trigger and not waiting, and you're throwing your money away if you're renting. And I was like, well, shit, what am I doing? And around that same time is when I got that Versace contract, and fighting picked up. So I don't have a piece of advice, but seeing all this type of positive reinforcement about just pulling the trigger, taking a gamble, investing in your future, and this and that, is when we bought our house 5 years ago, and our house has been such a blessing. Like I said, like during the pandemic, we had a home. My son was able to grow up here. We've got so many memories. And now that our house is for sale, the market is crazy right now. And so it was not only like a home for my family, but it was the best financial. And I'm not trying to like talk money. I'm just saying, as a financial investment, if I hadn't have pulled that trigger, it would have been such a huge loss to me. And having done it, it pays off so big, and I was able to raise my family here. So I'm just glad at that time in my life when you're like, I was kind of like new to getting a little bit of money, you know, fighting money and modeling money, that I did something smart with it, and it paid off for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely good to invest in things that are going to, what's the opposite of depreciate?
Yeah, appreciate.
Appreciate, yeah. So there you go. I went to college. But Alan, okay. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We have, can we find you on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and then also where can we hear Good Day MMA?
Yeah, I keep it simple. Social media at Alan Jouban, at ALANJOUBAN. Pretty much all my social media. And then Good Day MMA is available on all social media platforms. So you can check it out on YouTube or any of those. Like I said, I feel like Jason has been hinting that we're on the chopping block. And that would be so sad, because we did a show the other day with this guy named Casey Mitchell. He's a wounded warrior, got his leg blown off in a tank. He became a power lifter and broke all these records, and now he's making his pro boxing debut. We went and sparred the guy. We had like punching contests in the gut, and like, and he told his story. We it's just we had so much fun. And all I keep hearing is like how people are just in love with our show. But at the end of the day, if you don't have enough ratings after a certain amount of time, you might get cut. And so I hope you guys go check it out, give it a follow, and maybe keep the show alive for a little longer.
Yeah, I watched it myself. Super entertaining. I really think that you and Jason are the perfect duo. You know, you you guys complement each other
a little
well.
sex and violence, me and Jason.
It is. It really is. And you guys complement. And I saw that body shot contest, and
oh my God,
you went down first, and that's what it looks like.
I went down first. I gotta say, I put myself in the hardest position. You know, I was getting punched twice as many times as
That's
them.
true. That's true.
But
okay.
yeah, 225-pound Casey Mitchell and then Jason on the other side.
Yeah, no joke.
I was getting beat up.
Who would you like to hear next on Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl? It could be a fighter. It could be someone like Casey, you know, who's just got an inspiring story. Who would you recommend to be our next guest?
Oh, you're asking me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were asking the fans. You know what? I mean, you saying Casey, it makes me very curious if he'd be open and willing to come on a show like this. I don't know him on a personal level enough that he would be sharing that kind of stuff, but he's also the type of guy that, I mean, he's been through so much, waking up in a tank and his leg is missing and his arm is dangling. They had to he had flashbacks. It's such a crazy story, and a guy that accomplished so much. You would think people like that would be pretty open to saying, look, man, I got a crazy story to tell.
For sure.
And I'm open to saying it. So I'll nominate him.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Alan. I wish you the best of luck with all the commentating. I hope to see you back in the gym in Black House very soon. And just good luck.
Thanks for having me on, Ashley. And I appreciate you taking it easy on me.
I did take it easy on you. You're welcome.
You did.
All right. Bye, Alan.
All right. Take care.
Well, that's it, ladies and gents. Well, actually, I'm sure that the ladies enjoyed that one a little bit more. I'm super grateful to have such a very busy and high-profile and interesting person such as Alan on the show. Makes me happy to see my fellow teammates and coworkers branching out into other lines of work. I think we fighters are such extremists that we tend to put all of our eggs in one basket a lot of the time, and I'm no different. But it's important to it's important to not put yourself in a box. You know, we're capable of so many other things. We've got to remember that, we are not just the sport we've chosen. We have a lot to offer besides broken bones and slug matches to the world. And that goes for everybody, not just fighters. Congrats to all you guys out there working your asses off in whatever career you've chosen. And if you're not at the one that you desire yet, that's okay. Keep grinding away. To me and Alan, it's always when you least expect it that the opportunity is born out of hard work and tenacity. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl. Have a great weekend, all you deviants. Check out the fights. And also, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, which is linked in the show notes. And thank you so much for all of your questions every week. Special thank you to audio engineer DJ Zoll at DJ Zoll, Tomorrow Kids Studio at Tomorrow Kids Official, producer Nate Jackson at Nate Adamus, and you can find us on Instagram at Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl, and myself at Ashley MMA. And lastly, before we turn off this podcast, please, please, please give us a rate and review so that more people can check us out and we, get a little higher on the charts, and, more people can listen, the more shows we can do. So again, remember, be kind, be grateful, but don't take shit from anyone. Subscribe to this podcast and tune in next week to hear more tales of sex and violence.